Great. I'd like to call to order the school building committee. Roll call, please.
Mayor Nicholson,
Present.
Brian Castellanos,
Present.
Deb Ruggiero,
Present.
Dr. Alvarez isn't here tonight. Diana Charcutis, Flory Makua,
Present.
Jessica Gerardo, don't see her here. Jim Ridley, Joe Smart,
Present.
Karen Miller, Kevin Ritterhouse,
Present.
Lauren Drago,
Present.
Lorraine Gately,
Present.
Michael Bertino, Michael Donovan, Peter Koulikides, Rich Marlin,
Present.
Rick Starbird,
Present.
Tom Mannion,
Present.
Tom McGee, Wayne Losey. That's it. We have a quorum.
Thank you.
Okay. I will share my screen. Okay, thank you all for being here tonight. We hope to get out of tonight voting on a project budget to submit to MSBA for review. That's our main goal of tonight. We do have some administrative actions, the approval of the September 13th meeting minutes. Then we'll go through a review of how we arrived at the total project budget, and if everybody's okay with it, we'll ask that they vote to approve submitting the project budget notification to MSBA, which is due on the 12th of October. Then I'll give you a quick regulatory permitting overview that's affecting the project, and then a quick schedule, meeting schedule review, as well as an overall schedule review. First up is voting to approve the September 13th SBC meeting minutes.
Motion
Motion
to
to approve. Second.
Second. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you. So just a little bit of how we got to the construction budget that we carried in the total project budget. As you all know, back in December, the cost came in fairly high just because of the uncertainty of the soils on the site. And realizing that, we decided to go back to the drawing board and look at balancing the site so that we're not hauling off any of the site on any of the soils on site. Also, we were assuming the worst case condition in terms of the floodplain elevations. So we've also since gone back to appeal that, which we're hoping will be excellent news for our construction budget. But right now, we had two estimators, PM&C and our construction manager, Consigli. And as you can see here, the budgets came in very close to each other. And this is both budgets. We added 3 million to it for an allowance for soils. Even though we've balanced the site, we might have some spoilage that has to go off site. So we are carrying an additional 3 million allowance in here. But as I said, we are well below the 1% variance between the two estimates that's required. And moving forward in the total project budget, we're using Consigli's construction costs with the 3 million added in of $133,993,738 that we carried forward into the total project budget. Does anybody have any questions on the estimating process before I move on to the total project budget?
I just like to say I'm very encouraged to see these numbers.
Yes.
I have a quick question here, Lynn. Does this include soft costs and FF&E as well?
No, this is just construction cost at this point.
Okay,
Um,
so the city will have to, it's not the total amount that we have to pay, pretty much, for
no,
your
this is
information.
construction cost only, and as we move to the next slide, I'll show you how that fits into the total project budget, where we have included all of our soft costs, all of our OPM design fees, administrative costs, FF&E technology, and all of that. But where we were at one point with the construction cost, I think the team has come a long way and getting it down to a reasonable number. I mean, and that's all relative, reasonable in terms of today's market. But I think that we didn't really have to sacrifice much to, as a matter of fact, we talked about taking out 3 classrooms or 6 classrooms, which we did not end up needing to do. And a lot of other, value engineering things that we ended up not having to do at this point. Rich, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, so do we know, can Sigwe factor in any of the Inflation Reduction Act savings that we potentially are gonna get, or is that hopefully something that should be on top of this?
That will be on top of this, as we really have to have bid prices, or what we actually bid the different components out as, to include in for the cost of submitting the tax incentives. So right now, it has not accounted for any savings in regards to Mass Save or the IRA or any other incentive programs.
So, I mean, as you know, I'm not sure who else knows, if we use 15% apprentices on this project, certain portions of it, not the whole thing, we save 30% off the cost of construction on it. It's not everything, but in some cases, like the ventilation system is going to be a good chunk of the ventilation system if we're requiring the 15% apprenticeship on the project.
And I think that once we get to a point in the construction documents where we're getting ready to go out to bid, I think that we should have maybe some meetings, include you, Rich, to help us make sure that we have incorporated the requirements in the bid documents so that we can make sure that we take advantage of that.
And when do we think they're going out? Because some of these IRS guidelines are in, as Jim and probably also, Lynn, they've been put out for comments, but they're not permanent yet. So what do we think? What is our timeline when we're going to be going out to bid for actual construction?
So we will be going out with an early package to do some enabling work for next summer. However, we probably will not be going out to bid for the main bid package until the spring,
Oh, good.
Later in the fall, springtime. But the issue is, I know we had a meeting with Hinckley and Allen, I believe, who basically told us we can only apply in the year that the school opens. So it's probably going to be 2026 when we submit for the incentives.
But there's 2 sets of IRA funding projects. One is the direct production. So if we do heat pumps or if we do geothermal or something like that. Secondarily, there's money that goes actually to the contractor. The contractor, when they file taxes, and let's say it's 2025, they basically apply for this tax deduction to themselves.
Right.
Technically, they're supposed to put that in the bid document they give us. God knows how you guys figure this out. When they give us a bid document in 2024, they're supposed to reflect that tax credit cut, which is at 30% is basically the cost of their, almost 100% the cost of their labor. So so they have to submit their bids at a lower rate, and they will get money the next year.
That one we've had for a while now, and it's really hard to track.
I know,
And make sure that you get that entire, it's really hard. But again, once we put together the bid documents, we can review all of that to make sure
Right.
we have his title language in the bid documents as possible
Right.
to make sure we get as much benefit out of it as possible. It, like I said, it is a very difficult one to track to make sure you actually are receiving that 30%.
Yes, yep. All right, thank you.
And one other thing, the geothermal, because of our soils conditions on the site, we were hoping that with all these incentives, we would be able to afford geothermal, but with us trying to maintain all soils on site without disposal off-site, with all the spoilage that you get from geothermal wells, we just don't think it's going to be possible to do a geothermal well system. We'll continue to look at that as we go into design development, but at this point, I mean, especially if we get some better news from FEMA and the flood map, and we don't have to go down. There's a lot of factors in play yet that have to work itself out for us to definitively know whether or not we can do geothermal wells or not. But right now, it's not looking positive.
Looks like Tom has a question as well.
Just a quick one. Their cost estimates down there in the hundreds of millions. The numbers next to them, like 547.61, 546.22. Is that cost per square foot, or what are those numbers, Lynn?
Those are the cost per square foot.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
If there's not any more questions, I'll move on to how the construction costs go into the total project budget. So in developing the total project budget, we've been in close communications with MSBA, and I know that the MSBA staff is recommending to the MSBA Board of Directors that both the construction and site caps be increased. The MSBA Board of Directors meeting is going to be held on October 25th. So at that point, we'll know exactly how much the increases will be. With these increases, it's going to increase the effective reimbursement rate for districts. So, and from what we are anticipating is that the effective reimbursement rate for Pickering is going to be significant, a significant increase, which will get the city back into the range that they had originally been anticipating from the beginning, and sort of based on what the Thurgood Marshall Middle School reimbursement rate was. So again, we won't know for sure, but until October 25th, when the increases are voted, but it seems very positive as we move forward. For now, what we're required to do is submit a notification form on the total project budget. We have to submit this to the MSBA, and we have to submit the schematic design submission to them for them to review both hand in hand. So, and then in the month of November, going into December, they will be working with us to finalize what the MSBA's reimbursement to the city will be. So with all of that, I filled out their total project budget form, which has a lot of calculations over on the side that implements all their various caps. But when I put in the construction budget, all the other fees, all the other anticipated costs for FF&E, technology, equipment, moving cost, construction testing and material testing, inspection costs, utility company fee costs, pre-construction costs, as well as OPM designer and designer consultant costs. Our total project budget, including this phase that we're in now, feasibility study and schematic design, is $168,263,362. However, because we've already previously appropriated and funded the feasibility study and the schematic design phase, when it comes down to it, we're likely just to be asking for a funding appropriation of $166,598,362. On the next page, I'll show you how that breaks out, but based on these numbers, the proposed reimbursement effective rate is going to be somewhere around 61%, whereas currently, based on the old formulas and the old caps, we were at approximately 41%. So as you can see, there's going to be a significant increase in reimbursement once the increases are approved. And again, like I said, we'll be more in line with where we were when Thurgood Marshall was in the pipeline. So how that breaks down, because I know you couldn't read that form, our feasibility study and schematic design right now is at $1,665,000. Again, that money has already been appropriated, allocated, and mostly expended. So that's why you see over on the right-hand side where I pull it out again to get to the ultimate funding request. But the administrative costs, part of which is the OPM costs, are $5,050,000. The AE costs, which also includes all the various design consultants, is $15,255,000. We have pre-construction costs of $420,000, and then our construction costs, which we showed you on the previous page, of $133,993,738. We have the miscellaneous project costs, which include utility company fees, construction testing, inspections, moving, and other management type fees. On the project side is $600,000, and then FF&E and technology both at $1,620,000, which ends up being total project cost of $160,223,738. Previously, when we were working hard to get the costs within a range that the city could afford, we were looking at various things such as reducing contingencies lower than what we normally would carry. But I will say that in this budget, we were able to restore them to the standard construction contingencies and owners contingencies. So we have a total in the owners and construction contingencies of $8,039,624. That's there in case we need it to fund any major changes. However, I don't know if you guys recall, but we didn't use any of the contingencies on the Thurgood Marshall Middle School project. And that will be our hope as we move forward with the Pickering project, is that we don't have to expend the contingencies, but we do have it there in case any unforeseen issues come up or things that were not anticipated in the overall construction costs or the project budget. So,
But Lynn, so if something comes up high, so are you expecting to VE that so we don't use contingency, or you would prefer to use the contingency instead of VEing something? What if it's programming or just design? What's the goal there? Yeah.
the intent would be to bring it back to both the school department and the SBC to say, we've run into an issue. What do you want to do? So
Okay.
it'll be up to the city and the school department and SBC to make that decision.
Got it.
But I guess mainly what I'm saying is if we bring in all the cost of the 160,223,738 based on the current scope and schedule, that as we go through construction, our intent would be to maintain cost within that GMP number
Mhm.
without expending contingencies, but we do have them there in case we do need them, in case unforeseen things come up. We do know that, it's not a pristine site in the middle of nowhere. So, I mean, there are opportunities for unforeseen conditions to pop up. So we do have sufficient, I think, contingencies to cover that.
Okay, thanks.
So as we move forward, we're going to be asking to approve this total project cost. It has to be this number, even though like I said, we've already appropriated the 1,665,000. We do have to approve the entire amount because that's a MSBA requirement. They want to know what the total costs are, including this phase that we're in now. So we'd be asking you to vote that amount as we move forward. And as I said previously, it looks as if MSBA's reimbursement will be close to the 61%, which again it puts us in a much better position than we were in previously with only the 41%. But MSBA will, after the vote on the 25th, and after we submit our schematic design, we'll be looking at both our submission and our budget and working with the city to come up with the MSBA share of the project. And we have been working with them for months to make sure that we get all spaces included as eligible. At one point, we had a good number of spaces that were going to be ineligible, but we've been able to work with them to get everything at this moment eligible. Again, they have to review to make sure there hasn't been any changes in the schematic design submission, but right now we've got all spaces counted as eligible. Does anybody have any questions on the budget amount that we're looking to notify the MSBA about?
Is now the time for a motion, Lynn?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to accept to approve the submission of the total project budget to the MSBA.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Oh, sorry, I'm gonna have to close out to call the roll. Oops. So Mayor Nicholson,
Yes.
Brian Castellanos,
Yes.
Deb Ruggiero,
Yes.
Dr. Alvarez, Diana Chakutis, Flory Makua,
Yes.
Jessica Gerardo, Jim Ridley, Joe Smart,
Yes.
Karen Miller, Kevin Ritterhouse,
Yes.
Lauren Drago,
Yes.
Lorraine Gately,
Yes.
Michael Bertino, Mike Donovan, Peter Koulikides, Rich Marlin,
Yes.
Rick Starbird,
Yes.
Tom Mannion,
Yes.
Tom McGee, Wayne Lozey, That's it. Thank you. Can you see my screen again?
No.
I
No.
have,
Okay, let me try to share again. How about now?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, that works.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay, just want to give you a quick update on where we are with the regulatory permitting. We have, as I said before, based on the new FEMA maps that are out, the appeal period ends on November 15th. So we're working hard to get a submission in by the end of next week that appeals the increase elevation of the floodplain. And based on working with Woodard and Kern, we feel positive that that we will get a good response from FEMA on the 15th. However, you know, we still have to go through that process, and there's, you know, we have Wood and Kern have spoken to people at FEMA. However, it goes to a much broader review. So we're hoping that we get a good response. I think it was mostly the appeal is based on original miscalculations on the actual flood elevation to begin with. That's why they think that they'll be able to prove that and hopefully get the flood elevation reduced. So that is in progress. There's a few surveying items that need to be submitted to Wood and Kern by the end of this week so that they can put together the appeal and get it in by the end of next week. We're looking at providing an environmental notification form to MIPA no later than December 22nd. If we get a good response from FEMA on the 15th, I think that we can file that much sooner. And at some point, we may decide that we try for expanded environmental notification form, which will put us in the process of a single EIR, which is, oh geez, I didn't mean to do that, which is a, it's an environmental impact report that's only done in one submission versus the two submissions that you see here, which is the draft environmental impact report and the final environmental impact report. But we'll know more when we hear back from FEMA because these are all interrelated, as well as the legislative vote on Article 97. Again, if we have a good response from FEMA and we're able to get our ENF into MIPA, the legislation should be able to vote on Article 97 by the end of 2023. If we have to go into a two-stage response to MIPA, we will be looking to submit our draft environmental impact report and get a response back to them by February 16th. And following that would be the final environmental impact report with a response anticipated back by April 5th. And once we have our responses back from MIPA, then we can go to the Conservation Commission for an order of conditions, and in which case we would hope to be complete with that process by May 31st at the latest, so that we can start our construction work no later than when school is out in June. We really need to be able to take advantage of the summer work to get some summer slammer work in to get some of this enabling work done so that we can take down the modulars. We need to create spaces for the classrooms that we're going to take away by demolishing the modulars. Also, at the same time, we can get started on the site work since it's kind of an independent piece of this, in that I'm meaning the site work on Magnolia Park. So that's where we stand with the regulatory process that we're in currently. And again, all of these are worst case scenario dates. We hope to improve on all of them, but these dates, if we can accomplish these tasks by these dates, we'll be able to get a construction start when school's out. Rich, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, so the MEPA, you said by the end of the year, this needs a roll call vote, right? In the legislature? Or
You
no?
mean Article 97?
Yes,
Yes.
because they end formal sessions, I think, November 16th. Are you talking, we're gonna have it by then or no?
I'm not exactly sure on that. I think it depends on how quickly we get a response back from FEMA, but I do know that they could vote by the end of their regular session contingent upon perhaps. I'm not really sure. Adrian's not here with us tonight, our consultant for the Article 97 process.
Rich, she will be on for the next meeting on the 18th.
Oh, okay.
By the 18th too, we'll know, we'll be assured that we at least have our appeal in for FEMA and where we stand with what our plans are for the environmental notification. But right now, this is our current schedule. Any other questions? Okay, just moving on then. Tonight was as I said before, our main goal was to vote to approve submitting the total project budget to MSBA. On the 11th, or at least by the end of next week, we hope to get a draft of the schematic design out to the SBC so that they can look at it. We will go ahead and submit our budget to MSBA on October 12th, which is the deadline. And we will be looking to have another SBC meeting on October 18th. And that will be to approve submitting the schematic design package to MSBA. We have to submit to MSBA by October 26th in order to make the MSBA Board of Directors meeting on December 13th. As I said before, they will be reviewing our budget and our schematic design submission in November. And we will either be on the November 8th or the November 15th Facilities Assessment Subcommittee meeting agenda, where we will present our schematic design to the MSBA and for their comments back. Well, as I said, we'll also have another opportunity to bring the total project budget back to the SBC for them to see the comments that MSBA made and to have a chance to review what the city's final reimbursement rate will be. Any questions on the upcoming milestones? Okay, so all of this is really to get us set up to start as I said, early construction in the summer of 2024 with bidding of the main bid package in the fall of 2024. And we're working hard to be able to open the school on September of 2026. However, depending on when we can get started with design development, it could push out a couple of months beyond that date, but we're working to maintain the original intent for opening school in the fall of 2026. Does anybody have any questions? Tom?
Just quick, is there any way we can get these packages out like a day earlier for these meetings? So we get time to review them and stuff. I'm retired, it's easy for me. I know you're all very, very busy, but it'd be good to give a little lead time into these packages.
Yes, and there was a miscommunication. I thought that we were sending these out earlier today, but there was a miscommunication on who was sending out the packages. So that's why you didn't get it earlier today. However, I will say I do like to give them the day before, but we were working with the MSBA up until late on Monday to try to get a good idea of where we would be with the budget and the likely range of reimbursements so that we knew that we would feel comfortable bringing forth the budget for a vote tonight. So we were late putting together the whole presentation to begin with. So apologies.
All right, Lynn. Lynn, thank you. You're doing a great job, I think. Thank you.
Lorraine?
Yeah, this is basically for the mayor, Mayor Nicholson. The proposed is 61%. I get a little confused because in the past it was always like 80%, but it's like reimbursement. But it's really like you're only getting 60% reimbursement. So I get a little confused with that. So could you just explain this number to me a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely happy to. So the basic principle of the school construction formula is that a community like ours is eligible for up to 80%.
Okay.
And so that's where the 80% comes from. It was never really 80%, and it has been getting less and less. So for the Marshall, it was roughly 60-something%.
Okay.
And we don't know yet for sure what it's going to be for this project because it's the board is going to take up a proposal. The board of the Massachusetts School Building Authority is going to take up a proposal in their October meeting. But what was such a big challenge for us was that the effective reimbursement rate that we had modeled out in the designs for this project and the planning for this project had gone down to 41%. Mm-hmm. And if you remember, the reason for that is that the difference between the rates at which the MSBA reimburses for eligible costs and the actual construction costs for those types of construction. So as the market got further and further away from the reimbursement rates, the effective reimbursement rate percentage went down. So their proposal would then, as we understand it, would bring it back in line to what we had done with the Marshall. So that would be, if we could get back to where we were for the Marshall project, we would be in great shape financially.
So that's why I want to applaud you and that everybody on that. I'm psyched on that. There was one other part I wanted to ask about. I'd like to, where would I find the legislator is going to vote on Article 97. I'd like to take a look at Article 97. I don't know how to get to it.
Yeah, so Lynn or Tim, could you send the filing that you mean that the our application, right, Lorraine,
Or the actual
or the
language.
actual law?
Yeah, the vote, I would like to know what they're voting on exactly, so I'd like to read through that, or whatever I need to know.
Yeah,
I
so
don't
Lynn or
think I
Tim.
even have a copy of it. I think we need to
Okay,
get it from Jim
Daniel from my
Lamanna.
office. Daniel from my office can send it. Yep, you can send it.
Perfect, perfect. Okay,
I
those
do,
are all
I
my
do have the packet, if you would like to see the packet that we submitted to both the Conservation Commission and the Parks Commission, which explains it all. I can send that to you.
Okay,
I don't have the actual bill language.
okay. Danya, does Danya?
He has the
Yep.
home rule petition. Yep.
Yep, I can send it. You're right.
Thank you very much.
And Lorraine, I'm pretty sure that this is what Adrian Lennon will be on the next meeting to discuss and update you on as
Oh,
well.
awesome. Thank you. Yep, because I want to know who I just talked to and say kudos, keep fighting, keep doing what we need to do, because you know me, Jared, I will do that. So thank
Our
you.
delegation is taking the lead to shepherd that through Beacon Hill. So I know you know how to get a hold of them. So that would be those would be the folks.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you.
I will say that the city really pushed this Article 97 through very efficiently. I mean, the fastest I've seen it in any of the schools that I've worked on, so it's good on everybody's part.
That's a good thing. We need all these buildings. As we all know. Thank you.
Any other questions? Brian?
So the item came up with an article about Magnolia Park being closed. I don't know if we could talk a little bit about that piece. I think it was around the soil. There was some, when I read it, it said reports heavy metals in the soil. I know there was some concerns around that area, but when I reviewed the article, I think it doesn't really describe our project. I think that area is going to be turned into parking lots, I believe. So could you kind of talk a little bit about that article if you've seen it?
Yeah, we had put out an announcement over the weekend to let people know what was going on. Lynn, do you want to talk about from the project's perspective the implications there?
Yeah, I think that what we were doing was trying to do our due diligence in terms of soils testing on the park. And then there were some higher than normal or allowable concentrations of some heavy metals found in one area, and it was near the community playground. So we were required to close that off and notify DEP. So in terms of the project, and what I had said before was the intent was to balance the site and basically cap any of these soils that may not be suitable to be, I don't know, suitable to have as open grass areas for play or whatever. We'll be capping the areas that that have the unsuitable soils so that we don't have to remove them from the site.
So again, just to follow up on that, obviously safety is a priority here, and that's why we're going through this diligence process. I think that it is a disruption to have to close the field off the way we have, and DPW has been working with folks that they use a field and had reserved it. I think fortunately for the project, it doesn't appear to have significant long-term implications because of the plans that were already sort of anticipated for that site.
I ask because once we start digging and we go forward, like I just was hoping not to encounter any other issues when we start digging on our site when it's right there. So I just was making sure that analyzed as well, which I know you guys have been doing a lot of work over there, so I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
our
and then-
intent is to build up and cap and build up.
Yeah, and that's why the team is going through doing all this diligence now to try to get a handle on it. It's one of those things where we live in a compact urban environment that for generations that there was coal, ash dumped there, and tanneries in that neck of the woods, and that we're going to do the best we can as we go through this. We understand that there's that risk, and no matter where you are in a city like ours, we're going to encounter some of those kinds of risks, and so I think that the team, and we're trying to do everything we can to mitigate that, and I think this is an example of that. It's frustrating, I think, particularly for the people who use the park and the neighbors, that they're going to lose that park earlier than they would have under the plan. We still would have had to restrict access once construction started in next spring and summer, but fortunately now it's blocked off now, because it was sort of a required step given the contaminants that were found.
Thank you.
Gene or Steve, I don't know if you have anything more to add.
No, just that, between the MSBA raising the allowable reimbursement and, I will say the team redesigned the site so that we didn't have to dispose, and instead came up with another concept to cap these soils. I think it served this city well on both accounts, and it's what made this vote tonight maybe a little easier than it might have been.
Awesome. Well, I just want to say I totally respect the authority of the board, and they still have a vote to do with respect to the rate increases. And so, we will, I think, appropriate hold off on any certainty or specific excitement with respect to that until the 25th. And then, of course, we'll need their support in their December meeting as well, which is what we're preparing the submission for their December meeting. But this project budget that we're comfortable with, I think, is a huge step forward, and I'm just incredibly grateful for everyone's collaboration to continue to propel this forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, you had a lot to do with getting us to this point, so appreciate it.
Thank you. No further business?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Thank you
Good
very
night.
much.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Pleasure.